Donald Trump was just hit with disastrous polling, and even some of his former most ardent supporters are demanding the 25th Amendment be invoked and that he be impeached. Donald Trump has lost the support among white, non-college educated voters. Not only has he lost their support, he is significantly underwater with that demographic net -8. Let me repeat that. Among white non-college voters, Trump right now is underwater net -8. You take a look at this latest CNN SSRS poll. Donald Trump, the worst approval in modern presidential history, tied for his low approval mark right after the January 6th insurrection. 34% of Americans approve, 66% of Americans disapprove. When you look at the various issues in these crosstabs on immigration, Donald Trump net -22. Net -22 on immigration. The American people hate Donald Trump's Border Patrol and ICE Gestapo roaming streets, ripping families apart, throwing people in concentration camps. They did not go after the criminals. They went after hard-working people, and they threw them in concentration camps. They terrorized and tortured people, including citizens as well. On the economy, it gets way worse for Donald Trump. Net -40 on the Iran war, net -42, an all-time low for Donald Trump. On inflation, Trump net -50. Let me repeat that. Net -50. And on gas prices, which Donald Trump promised on day one he would bring to under $2 a gallon, net -58. Net -58. And when you take a look, by the way, of that cohort group of white non-college voters, Donald Trump in 2018, +9. Donald Trump October 2020, +8. February 2025, +24. July 2026, net -8. That is a new low as well. You take a look also at the crosstabs, not only of white non-college, among male voters, among men in general. It's very discouraging as a man to see men supporting Donald Trump in the 2024 election. Donald Trump, net -26. And we already knew that, women don't support Donald Trump, but amongst men, net -26 right now, whereas in 2018, he was +8. Even among Republican voters right now, he's only +54 among Republican voters. That means he's almost underwater at this point. He's losing significant amounts of Republican support. In addition, the Quinnipiac poll shows that Democrats hold an 18-point enthusiasm advantage heading into the midterms. That's unheard of. That's unheard of high. 57% for Democrats, 39% for Republicans. You take a look at this split ticket 2026 midterm election model. Not only do they have the Democrats crushing Republicans in the House of Representatives, notwithstanding all of Donald Trump's gerrymander schemes, but you take a look right here at the United States Senate right now. They project Democrats take control of the Senate right now if things continue down this path. And you take a look even at state regime media, which calls itself Fox. They're polling right here. In Georgia, you have Democratic Senator Ossoff destroying Collins right now. In North Carolina, you've got the former Democratic Governor Cooper, who I've had on a lot on the MeidasTouch network, crushing the former RNC chair who's running against him, Whatley. In Ohio, Sherrod Brown, the former senator from Ohio, Democrat, crushing Husted, the MAGA Republican extremist right now. In Iowa, Josh Turek, love Josh Turek, surging ahead of Hinson, that MAGA Republican extremist. Now in Maine, Collins was slightly ahead of Graham Plattner, before Plattner dropped out, but now people believe that Maine can be in that category for Democrats as well. And also, Texas will be close. And as I said, don't sleep on Idaho. Don't sleep on Idaho. The Democratic candidate dropped out, put support behind an independent candidate who's a former Democratic state representative right there. And that race can look awfully close. The MAGA Republican senator there currently chairs the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and he's one of the main people who got us into this catastrophic and unlawful war with Netanyahu against Iran, which has crushed our economy and has led to the deaths of our service members. So utterly disgusting. Here's how they describe some of this new polling on CNN. And they said, it's as bad as you get pretty much in this type of polling. Let's play it.
This new CNN poll has the president at just a 34% approval rating. For context, this is the same career low of his first term after the January 6th insurrection. So you know that's got to be pretty bad. The president hit a new low among Republicans, too, with only 19% of his own party now saying they're enthusiastic about the rest of his second term. That's down nearly 20 points from last spring. The sinking numbers tie back to a range of connected issues. A majority of Americans are displeased with the president's focus on construction projects during his second term, as he announced today that renovations are going to begin on Virginia's Dulles Airport imminently. Also, more Americans now expect the Iran war to be headed towards a long-term conflict, as around 3/4 say the rise in gas prices, one extremely tangible impact of the war, has caused them some financial hardship personally. A similar number say the president has not gone far enough to reduce the price of everyday goods. That was a key campaign promise of his from 2024. And speaking of campaigns, all this comes as the November midterm elections are only 97 days away. The president so far has given his party very few domestic policy bright spots to run on. His approval ratings on election integrity and voting rights, on immigration, and on federal government management all sit slightly above his overall approval, although all of them still a ways from even 50% approval.
Then you had Alex Jones saying that Donald Trump needs to be impeached and removed, whether it's 25th Amendment or impeachment. Alex Jones, one of the former big Trump supporters. Listen to what he just said. Play this clip.
The big issue is how to stop Trump. And we have to have Congress go for the war powers. They've 3 times tried to vote war powers. They're supposed to authorize a war. This is a war. They're getting the draft ready. If this isn't a war, nothing's a war. I mean, this is absolutely out of control. And so I'm calling for it right now. 25th Amendment, impeachment, whatever needs to happen to get this front and center, to get control of our country. It's impeachable alone that the president supported the NDAA.
Then you had on the right-wing podcast like Tucker Carlson. Here's what he had to say. Let's play it.
Okay. Like this Straight Hormuz stuff, like, from what I understand, like nobody really controlled it before. But now Iran has discovered, like, holy shit, like the United States can't even shut us down. So now I'm sure there's going to be tax and escorts and everything until the end of time, because if we can't shut them down, nobody's going to shut them down. Of course. You know what I mean? And so, hello, new gas prices, like they're not fucking coming back.
We just turned Iran into a global power.
Yeah.
And it will remain a global power for the rest of our lives, at least.
Good job, admin.
Yeah, good job.
I even note the reporting on state regime media Fox on Fox Business talking about how consumers right now are just getting absolutely crushed by these Trump oligarchs. They're just crushing consumers. Here, let's play this clip.
Procter & Gamble, they're a consumer staple, the kings thereof. They're down 3.8%. What, people don't buy what they're selling?
Correct. So higher inflation is pulling back, means the lower income consumer is pulling back. Fabric and home, a 1% volume increase, but grooming, baby, family care, 1% volume drop. Healthcare, think Oral-B, Vicks, a 3% volume drop. They're trying to make it up up with pricing, but this is a tricky pricing environment right now. So when volume drops, it tells you something more fundamental going on with the business.
So I talk about a boring stock. This thing's done nothing for at least 5+ years.
Yeah.
Consumer staples overall are kind of a tough space. We basically only own nicotine within consumer staples because there's actually growth there. But these guys, they're actually losing business to lower priced competition right now, which is strange. I mean, you think people still have to brush their teeth. They're going to buy, Procter & Gamble stuff, but they're actually finding cheaper alternatives.
Then you've got Trump's energy secretary, Chris Wright, complaining that people are blaming data centers for high electricity prices. And Chris Wright says, what are you talking about? It's Obama's fault. The data centers decrease your electricity prices. The data centers make everything good. What are you talking about? Here, play this clip.
Mr. Secretary, a lot of Americans are skeptical of data centers. They've heard a lot of horror stories about various things. For the people who are watching right now who have concerns, what would you like to say to them?
Of course, there's a fear campaign going on right now. And why it's going on is the Democrats, since the election of President Obama, have spent 17 years pushing up electricity prices. Blue states have 50% higher electricity prices than red states. And now they figure they've got the perfect scapegoat. It wasn't our bad green policies. It was data centers that did it.
And one of the things that Americans are baffled by, although they shouldn't because Donald Trump is a real sicko, is that Donald Trump always talks about golden ballrooms and arcs and arches and painting the statues 24 karat gold and is turning it into like a bunker military company and all this stuff. Dude, shut up. I did a deal. Americans are sick of this disgusting, vile creature. Here, this is what he says. My arc, dude, shut up. Play this clip.
Well, this is an important one. This is travel. So in terms of the importance, I think the arc is going to be incredible. I think the protected ballroom and military center that we're building at the White House is going to be unbelievable. It's very important. But, this is the airport. This is sort of the lifeblood of a city or a capital.
Now I want to bring in the Democratic candidate for Governor of California, Xavier Becerra. Mr. Becerra, it's great to see you. I want to chat California and Donald Trump's attack on the state already, attack on the elections here. He's creating his cosplay fan fiction, which I think the more you'll see of him, you'll know he just makes up these dark, twisted fantasies. And, the one he talks about in California is that the reason that Hilton's actually in the race is because Donald Trump got involved and Donald Trump was like, I've got his back. And he's figured out the solution and he called up the federal prosecutors. And then if it wasn't for him, it would all have been stolen. And it's like, dude, just shut up. And I just think I want to get into his other efforts, the MAGA Prop 39 and everything. But I just want to start here because, we saw his attacks on California with the smelt fish and saying he turned on faucets and he saved the day with the wildfires while still not giving California what's needed in order to get through a natural disaster, but by making up these fake stories. But what's your reaction now that you're kind of seeing it? I know you knew it existed, but now that it's really kind of coming your way as the main Democratic nominee.
Ben, it's a lot of noise. That's one thing this president is good at, is creating a lot of noise. Unfortunately, the noise is oftentimes very dangerous, very harmful, but it's noise. And a state like California has the capacity to try to deal with this kind of noise. When I was Attorney General of California, when Trump was president the first time, we took on his noise. I had to sue the guy over 100 times to stop him from trying to destroy our values, our state, our resources. But you can do it. It just, he just creates a lot of noise. And now with these elections coming up, it's clear he's focused his attention, his noise, on trying to disrupt our election, make it more difficult for folks to vote, intimidate those who are not as familiar with the voting process. Maybe they're new citizens and they're voting for the first time, or they're new voters because they just turned 18. It's one of those things where Trump, the MAGA forces, Republicans in California are trying to do everything they can to keep people from voting because they know if people vote, Republicans will lose.
I was driving up the coastline here in California over the weekend, traveling with my family. We did the typical travel through the travel up the coast, and we were just reflecting as a family. I had my mother-in-law, my wife's mom, and sister in the car, and we were just looking around, and we're like, this is so beautiful. And this is such an incredible, it's such an incredible state with such diversity. We stopped along the way at the different missions and saw people from just all different walks of life and people who look different. And everyone, I was just like, why? This is what they want to attack. It's this happiness and the attacks on our state, always here in California, coming from the kind of miserable Mar-a-Lago crowd. It just became obvious. Like they hate the happiness here, huh?
I don't know. It's sort of the Grinch, 365. California's going to be California. And that's the beauty about this state. And the fact that our people are so ingenious, so innovative that we're going to get past this stuff. Certainly our families are hurting when Donald Trump denies healthcare funding. A lot of families in California will get hurt. One of the things that I hope to do as governor is make sure that regardless of the man-made disasters coming from Washington, D.C., Californians can count on having access to the healthcare that they need. But it's kind of strange. It's almost a jealousy. They are envious, some people, of everything that our state offers. And it's just natural what our state can offer. Then when you add to that the human talent that makes us this economic dynamo, it's a double whammy against those who just don't want to see some places succeed. So we'll go forward and we'll look for ways to partner with the federal government where we can, because they are our biggest partner. But at the same time, we'll stand up where we need to defend our people, our resources, our values.
Yeah, one of the front lines of that fight is Trump's attack on voting. His view is if he can rig the election, if he can suppress people's vote, maybe he's got a better shot. I don't know. So you have these MAGA propositions like Prop 39, trying to just create these technical things to hope that if it's pushed through, people will forget to put certain numbers on the mail-ins and forget to do the verifications, and then their votes won't count. And then separately, you have Donald Trump pursuing an appeal all the way up to the Supreme Court to try to implement his executive order to get the post service, which he's politicized, not to deliver mail, not to deliver the ballots, and to basically shut down the idea of mail-in, which, by the way, he's a mail-in ballot, a voter, which is part of this whole, WTF thing. So talk to us, though, because it's, to me, dual prong. We're seeing it in California, but we're seeing it across the country. There are similar props in other states that MAGA is pushing. Talk to us, though, about the fight regarding Prop 39 and what's going on in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, Prop 39 is essentially Trump's reincarnation of his federal SAVE Act that he's trying to pass in Congress, which is nothing more than another effort to try to interfere in elections throughout the country in various states. It's the reincarnation of his federal voter file that he wants to use to determine when a mail-in ballot can be submitted through the mail. If you're not on his list, then your ballot will not get mailed. It's not just ingenious; it's pretty nefarious. It's one of those things where you're going after people in ways that they just wouldn't expect. But what we see in California through Prop 39 is that this is their effort to try to intimidate voters, to present the obstacles that make it very difficult to vote, essentially trying to win elections without getting people to vote, because you scare people away, you make it difficult for folks. And unfortunately, he's got his disciple down here in California in Steve Hilton, the Republican nominee for governor, pushing for Prop 39. And so it's this constant 1-2 punch that Donald Trump employs of doing his bad deeds at the federal level, then getting his, acolytes, his puppets in states throughout the country to do his bidding down here. And so whether it's Steve Hilton, the Republican nominee for governor, or the congressional Republicans who are pushing Prop 39 on the ballot here in California, they're all trying to do Trump's bidding. And Trump's bidding in the end is to try to keep people from voting and voting him out of office and voting against the things that he keeps trying to do.
With this crazy news cycle, the election where obviously you finished first, but the top two go on. You're going against a MAGA guy, Steve Hilton. I don't know if it feels it wasn't all that long ago, but it feels like it may as well been, years ago in my, but I want people to remember this race is going on and you can't take anything for granted, and you're traveling the state and you're campaigning hard. And it's not that jungle primary anymore. It's a one-on-one race. So before we go, where can people learn more about the campaign? And what do you want our viewers and listeners to take away from you right now, as we're less than 100 days out at this point?
Well, I hope a lot of the viewers and listeners do what they did during the primary, and that is just engage social media. We just exploded on social media. It was so much fun to see so many things that came out. Songs were made about the race, Dio Javi, all these different ways that people spoke about my candidacy. It was just a fun thing to see. And I think that lightheartedness made it a lot easier to pull people out to vote. We had a pretty good voter turnout for a primary election in a non-presidential year. I hope that bodes well for November's election, because you want to see people vote, whether they vote for me or not. The more important thing is that they vote. And I have a lot of confidence that if we have good numbers of voters out there, I will win this race for governor. But no doubt, this is one of those races where it's kind of crazy, because people haven't really focused in some of these races, because Donald Trump sucks up all the oxygen all the time. But I hope they will pay attention, because whether it's this initiative on the ballot to try to suppress the vote, whether it is his disciples like Steve Hilton who are on the ballot, who would really turn California upside down. The last thing we need is to see a Western outpost, a Western White House planted in California because people don't come out and vote, and you elect a Republican to be the next governor, or more Republicans in Congress. And so I think we're going to work really hard here in California, take nothing for granted, to make sure that not only do we have some great victories for our Democratic candidates, but that we put down these initiatives that would try to undermine the democracy that California has led throughout this country, in trying to ensure that all families have these opportunities to benefit from the wealth, the innovation that we create throughout the country, but certainly here in California. So we're going to work it hard. And Ben, anything you all can do to get out there and tell folks about the news here in California would be great.
Website, anything else where people can find out more information?
Javier Becerra 2026.com.
Javier Becerra, thanks for joining us.
Ben, thank you.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers.
Hey, if you want the full story, how democracy got here and how we take it back, pre-order our new book, WTF America, today. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Let's do this.